about stocks this week. The RBI has brought out a draft guideline for new banking licenses. We'll tell you which companies stand to gain and what you should be buying now. Hemang Jani of Sharekhan joins us with his stock picks. He's picked HDFC Limited and CESC. We'll find out why he thinks these are stocks we should buy. And should you be holding on to your Idea Cellular stock? We'll answer your questions later on the show. Welcome to All About Stocks. I'm glad you joined us on the show this week. We've had some respite from the pain we saw over the last 3 weeks. This week, even though we only traded for a few days, we had a lot of holidays, the market did recover quite well. And that's why we are here to help you find the right stock picks in this market and stock picks that will make you rich in the long term. Remember, this is a show for long-term investors. There's an email ID at the bottom of your screen where you can write to us if you have any questions about your stock market investments. All right, let's move on now to our check of what the markets did this week. Let me bring in Darshan.
It was finally a good week for the markets, after weeks of having losses. This week we finally saw, even though it was a truncated week, we did see a lot of gains that came in on the Sensex, the Nifty, and even the mid-cap and small-cap. So the entire broader markets also participating in this big rally. We also saw the FIIs participating, buying coming in after so many sessions of selling. So if you see on a weekly basis, the Sensex and the Nifty were both up almost 6%. The BSE mid-cap, if you see, that was up almost 4%, and the small-cap index was up 3%.
Darshana, the big story was obviously the new banking license norms that we saw the RBI announce on Monday. Tell us how the stock market reacted to those norms and which stocks really moved the most.
See, the most important cue for the week was that the RBI actually came out with the draft guidelines for the banking licenses. Now, if you just want to break this up, you're seeing that the most of the NBFCs would qualify for the banking license. That's why you did see a strong run-up in most of the counters, be it Shriram Transport, M&M Financial, Bajaj Finserv, Manappuram Finance, Reliance Capital, all of them gaining in trade. Now, the other important thing is that the guidelines say that corporates will be eligible to actually go in for banking licenses, but there will be strict promoter holding norms for them. So companies like Reliance Industries, AB Novo, L&T, all these will be eligible, but there will be some kind of guidelines that they will have to adhere to. There are two things that the RBI has proposed. First of all, either they would have to go from a holding company route, or the second point is they will have to convert their existing NBFC branches to banks, with a stress that 1/4 of the branches that they will come out will have to be in non-bank areas. So then also the other important thing is that real estate as well as brokerages will not be eligible in this banking license. So companies like Edelweiss and Indiabulls Real Estate will not be eligible. But one thing that you would want to watch out is that, RBI needs amendments to as far as the Banking Regulation Act is concerned. So the actual licenses that can be awarded will take some time, maybe even a year, or maybe a year or two, and that was the street is estimating.
Like Darshan was telling us, a lot of stocks reacted to those license announcements that came out of the RBI. But there was a lot of speculation also on which companies will really benefit from that announcement and which of these companies will actually be awarded a license. At the end of the day, we know that the RBI is very strict about who gets banking licenses. And to help us understand that, Jagdish Mulkani, a member of the BSE and the NSE and a strong name in our stock market, joins us now to make sense of this development and find out how it will impact your stocks. Jagdish, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Like we were just talking about a whole list of hopefuls who've been eyeing banking licenses so far. According to you, which of these companies do you think are most likely to be awarded a banking license from the RBI?
Personally, I would put my money on 3 or 4 hopefuls. In the private sector, I would put it on Bajaj Finserv, which, I think has adhering to a lot of the criteria that have been laid down, and comes from a very solid group, and the Rahul Bajaj group. Generally, the companies have been doing very well, and this is a financial holding company, so I think this one has very good chances according to me. Another one which I think L&T Finance, which has been recently listed, that again comes from an excellent stable, and there'll be a lot of comfort level. Also, in the case of L&T Finance, is much more diversified ownership. That, by the way, is a negative against Bajaj Finserv. And in the public sector fray, I would think the ones that come to mind are one of the 2 power finance companies, either Power Finance itself for rural electrification. Though, of course, they are focused on an area, but I would imagine the government would want to give it to one public sector company at least.
Right. You mentioned Bajaj Finserv. We know that this company has run up nearly 30% this week. So, for a retail investor who's watching at home, is it too late to buy that stock now?
No, I would start with the hypothesis that this is a long journey ahead. I mean, it's been a long journey so far. Till these guidelines, much water will flow under the bridge. It's a charged issue. So I would frankly, my word to retail investors is that the stocks should make sense by themselves for other reasons. For example, Bajaj Finserv is a play on insurance. It's already doing extremely well in that space, with its alliance tie-up, etc. So this would be the cherry on the cake if it comes. And the other caveat one must add is that this is not some golden goose lying there. Banking license itself. After that, the real hassles will start. As we know, in the last 2 decades, we've had successes and failures. Let's not forget the Centurion banks and the global trusts of the world. So it's not everybody's cup of tea. Conditions are very stringent, rural inclusion norms, etc. So a long road ahead. You need deep pockets for this. So to come back to your initial question, the other one that again makes sense is mainly because they've been butchered is power finance and rural electrification, which are plays on the power sector, lending to the power sector. They account for 60% of lending to all new power projects. And of course, there are issues regarding their clientele, the STBs, etc. So one has to weigh that take that into account. But on their own, I think the prices have become rather attractive. So once again, if that happens, if the banking license happens, that will be an extra plus.
Right, Jagdish, now that we have you here, we have a couple of questions that have come in from viewers. Sanjeev wrote in. He said he has 2 lots of SBI, which he bought at 2,280. He wants to know, what do you think the upside of this stock is in the long term?
Well, SBI is a play on I mean, if you're bullish on India, if you're bullish on Indian stock markets, you cannot ignore this great stock. It's such a large piece of the whole banking space, financial service space. It's got all those subsidiaries which are yet to be merged properly. So yes, of course, it's been bludgeoned largely due to 2 reasons. One is the whole provisioning that the new CEO of the company decided to take very prudently, I think. But it begs questions about what was happening in the previous CEO's regime. But the market really took that very seriously and knocked the stuffing out of the price. And the other one is, of course, the issue about NPLs and this whole extra lending to infrastructure, etc. So which is why the stock has been hammered, possibly also the issue of an FPO. But all that, frankly, is in this price of around 2,000. And as soon as inflation and thereby the corollary, when interest rates start to soften or at least the rises stop, PSU stocks, move inversely with that, and it will be led from the front by State Bank of India. So I would advise the investor to hang in there. There's been a lot of heartburn, and there's probably more ahead.
All right, Sanjeev, to hold on to that SBI stock. Jagdish, one more quick question. Mr. Chaudhary has written in. He says he has Andhra Bank and Corporation Bank, and he wants to buy more of these stocks. He wants to know, between the 2 of them, which one would you recommend he continue buying right now?
I would go for Andhra Bank, but frankly, as I said, at the moment, in general, I'd be cautious on the PSU bank space for various reasons. But primarily due to more NPAs threats coming up, higher interest rates has not been good for these banks, etc. My advice would be to go for some of the better private sector banks.
Jagdish, thank you so much for joining us on All About Stocks and answering all of our questions. Remember, if you have questions for Jagdish or any of our other experts, you can write to us on the email ID that's at the bottom of your screen. Coming up after the break, Hemang Jani of Sharekhan joins us in the studio. He's the HDFC Limited and CESC as stocks to invest in. We'll find out why after the break.